The AgRestore system is based on science, and it provides farmers and growers with a revolutionary environmental compliance tool. So as we're documenting how sustainable an agricultural system is, we're measuring among the many, many things that we're measuring, we're including in that the parameters that we need to measure to prove environmental compliance. So farmers in New Zealand have to submit farm environment plans now that are scrutinized. And so this tool our tool can not just guide their strategy to become more sustainable, but it can also function as a sort of woof for a farm to show we're all compliant here. Yeah, it's easy to implement, increases efficiency. I'll get into some of how this all works. Reduces waste and shows everyone that the farmer is caring for the environment and future. Yeah, I've been developing this in New Zealand for the last 10 years and doing lots of research and development with farmers and all over the North Island. And the system consistently increases outputs and yields and yield quality while reducing the inputs, particularly fertilizers, that are used. And this is, like, efficiency is always the first place to try to make improvements when, if nature is out of balance. It's the easiest way, because you don't have to change a lot about the system if you can just make things run more efficiently. When I say efficiency with agriculture, what I mean is how much of what you're putting on the land, say fertilizer, is actually taken up by the plants. And that's what needs to be maximized, rather than kind of the old way of looking at things was how much fertilizer do we need to put on the land to get the maximum yields. And that's really missing the point, because if you're only trying to maximize yields, then you're not taking into account the effects on the environment. And so yeah, we really want to eliminate any leakages of fertilizer or carbon that should stay in the farm soil. And when we do that, profitability increases, because whether you're a 1,000-hectare farm or you're an organic home gardener, fertilizer is probably your biggest bill. It's probably the most expensive material you're using, and if you can use it more effectively, more efficiently, then everybody wins. This example is not directly about organic gardening, but I think it is, because farming is farming when it comes down to it. If you're growing plants in the ground, people can, like I said, there's different camps, but it's all the same process, no matter what name is put on it, and increasing efficiency in one system is relevant to another. So initially, I started developing this project for helping dairy farms reduce the amount of fertilizer they're using and help bring things in line with the environment to protect surface water and groundwater. And particularly in the Waikato, we've done quite a lot of work over the last 10 years and found that some profitable dairy farms apply 1/3 as much synthetic nitrogen as their neighbors. And these farms are just as profitable, and you would not know driving past that they're using. It's not like their fields are yellow and everyone else's are thriving and green. It's really, it was simply a matter of looking at all of the different lab tests that were available and different ways that we like measure and approximate nature in the lab, and then allowing the farmer to choose the method that appealed to them most, which was usually the one that was the cheapest and most profitable. And when it comes down to it, environmental sustainability is usually the most cost-effective thing to do. So we really want to tap into driving environmental change regardless of what someone's motivation is. If someone's driven to be an environmental hero, awesome, that's great. But if they only care about the environment, to the point that they will, only, consider making a choice that will immediately impact them in like a positive financial way, then we'll work with that too. Yeah, if we as a society want to make the best choices around environmental sustainability, we need to have as much high quality information as possible to base those decisions off of. And so, I believe farmers should have access to all of the objective facts relevant to their nutrient management strategies. And managing soil fertility in the environment should be done together in order to maximize the efficacy of both. Because soil fertility is the environment, it's part of it. And to try to look at it in isolation is as foolish as trying to look at like one metric of human health and pretend like that's a holistic measure of human health. Like your body temperature is important, but you'd be very foolish to say, oh, my body temperature is fine, so that means I'm perfectly healthy. It's more complicated than that, and the environment is similarly complicated, but also measurable. And so we want to help farmers learn from each other's experiences, because usually these farmers who are using a third as much synthetic nitrogen as their neighbors had no idea. And because there wasn't a good entity in place to help them learn from each other in those cases. This is just 250 dairy farms, just enormous amounts of nitrogen reduced, and best management practices were employed, and all these things that I'm sure everyone here associates with organic farms is also increasingly being used on conventional farms, and that's a win for everybody. And this is hundreds of farms going back over 30 years. So the system decreases the amount of fertilizer going into groundwater, waterways, and greenhouse gas emissions going into the environment. So the AgRestore system can be integrated into a farm environment plan, as I mentioned, and it also can help, not just on the farm, but at a watershed scale or a catchment scale. As we accumulate more data points and testing, the soil and water quality on farms, we can help solve landscape scale problems, and catchment scale problems. With the more farms that get involved. And our system, not only supports a farm environment plan, but testing year after year will show how effective that farm environment plan is. Because having a plan is great, and everybody should have one. But the real value is implementing that plan and then tracking how effective it is and doing more of the practices that are achieving the environmental goals that we want and doing less of the practices that we're using that, that don't work.